Ooh, that's good. Oh, that's jet fuel. That's some good espresso, but perhaps I shouldn't be drinking strong espresso when I already have some rumblies in my tumblies. TMI.
Yeah.
This is Geek Therapy Radio.
What are we waiting for?
And now your mental curator, Johnny Hamburger.
Welcome to Midweek Geek here on Geek Therapy Radio. I am your mental curator, Johnny Hamburger, and I am constipated with spiciness over gaming smartphones. Actually, just calling them gaming smartphones. I have been unreasonably fired up about this for the past couple years since we started calling phones gaming phones in modern times. I'm not talking about old gaming phones like the failed, the N-Gage, Nokia N-Gage, and the really cool, actually, Sony, Xperia Play that had basically built-in slide-out PSP controls. That's all fine and dandy, especially the Xperia Play. That was all great. What I'm talking about is, Asus has a new gaming phone, the second generation of their Asus ROG Phone 2 or 2 phone, whatever it's called. We've had the Razer gaming phones, a couple generations of that. And here's basically the difference over a normal smartphone, like a Galaxy Note 9 or 10 or whatever you have, Google Pixel. Basically, the differences between a gaming phone, which is hype, pure hype, is that it usually has a ridiculous and unnecessary amount of RAM. I think the Asus ROG Phone 2 that's coming out soon has 12 gigabytes of RAM. There's probably a lot of you listening to this show right now or watching on YouTube that don't have 12 gigs in your computer that you're listening to the show with. That's unnecessary. 12 gigs in a smartphone? Sorry, never. Never will that be necessary in the, I don't want to say that. I was going to say near future. Who knows what technology holds, but as of right now, 12 gigs, excessive. Perhaps the biggest factor in what makes it a gaming phone versus a normal phone is the refresh rate. So you have refresh rates on a typical phone, like the Note 9 that's in my pocket. I believe that's 60 frames a second. That's normal. That's average for everything, 60 frames a second. With a gaming phone, you have 90 frames a second, 120 frames a second. I don't think we're at 240. Are we at 240 yet? Anyways, it's getting there. But the point is that it's higher refresh rates, a lot more RAM, and the storage is usually faster. And it probably has, actually, up until recently, no. Well, okay, it has the latest generation of SoCs. So a Qualcomm Snapdragon 855 Plus and what have you. So basically it takes the state-of-the-art chip that's available in the latest flagships from any manufacturer, just pairs that same chip with a bunch of unnecessary RAM and higher refresh rate screens. Boom, bam, you have a gaming phone. But here's why it will never be a gaming phone to me, and here's what it needs to be a gaming phone. And here's what I hope that Google cashes in on with the upcoming Stadia release, or the release of the Stadia service in November. Without physical controls, it is not a gaming phone. So picture a Sony PSP. You've got the screen flanked by, in portrait mode, the physical controls. If you made the Sony PSP a smartphone, that would be a gaming phone. It already fit in our pocket. We already fit it in our pocket since 2006. We have phones in our pockets already that are basically the same size as a Sony PSP. If you just add physical controls to the gaming phone, you change the game forever. Yes, pun intended. Until a smartphone company puts physical controls on their phone, or back on their phone, if Sony wants to get into the game again, until that phone has physical controls and not just touch-sensitive capacitive buttons on the shoulders or anything like that, no physical controls, it is not a gaming phone, at least in my opinion, and in tons of other people's opinions. If it's just a glorified smartphone with way more RAM, there's no difference between what you're doing on a gaming smartphone and what a 4-year-old is doing on an iPad. There's no difference in the gaming experience as far as rubbing the screen is concerned. Even the iPad Pro has high refresh rates, everything like that. So In the actual experience of rubbing screens, nothing will replace the tactile feel of physical controls. So I have a hard time digesting that a gaming phone without physical controls has the audacity to be called a gaming phone just because it has ridiculous, unnecessary amounts of RAM and a high refresh rate screen. But here is where I think things can take a turn for the better. And I think that Google has a major opportunity on their hands with the upcoming release of Google Stadia, the Google Stadia service, game streaming service, in November. If Google doesn't release a Stadia version of the Google Pixel, so let's call it the Google Pixel Stadia smartphone. If they don't release that and have physical controls either slide out or in landscape mode, they will be leaving so much money on the table, so much potential on the table. And here's what I mean by that. So you have Google Stadia, which is going to be a game streaming service. Effectively, for those unaware, it's going to be like Netflix, but for video games. Game streaming is nothing new. It's been out since, around 2014-ish with NVIDIA game streaming and GeForce Now and everything like that. I had it on my NVIDIA Shield tablet back in 2014. But a big, huge company like Google stepping up to do a service like game streaming, that is going to propel the technology all the more forward. And by propel forward, I mean get the lag right. Latency. That's going to be the big issue with game streaming. Regardless, you can game stream anywhere. You can game stream already using Google Stadia. You're going to be able to game stream to your smartphone. Doesn't matter what kind of smartphone. Doesn't have to be a Google smartphone. You can stream it to your tablet. You can stream it to your gaming PC, which that's a whole nother can of worms we won't get into. You can do it to your Google Chromecast or whatever. That's what game streaming is. So why wouldn't you put out a smartphone to coincide with Google Stadia with built-in controls and include a bundle with, a subscription to Google Stadia in the first place? Basically pair the launch of Google Stadia with a specific Google Stadia or Pixel Stadia, Stadia Pixel, whatever, Google smartphone with physical controls. That would get people more inclined to use their service. Would you rather play Fortnite or PUBG or whatever AAA title rubbing a friggin' screen or using Xbox or PlayStation-like physical controls? There's only one right answer to that. For 99.9% of people, and there's going to be that 0.1% of people that's going to be a stick in the mud and just disagree because they want to stand out. Most people are going to want the physical controls for a service like Google Stadia. I'm not saying that people won't use Google Stadia on a tablet or a smartphone and just rub the screens because that's what they have to do. But you're telling me in 2019 we can't come up with a smartphone like the Sony Xperia Play that they came out with, I think it was 2011 or so? Why can't we do that now? And we have game streaming right here on the horizon in a couple months from a major company like Google. Stop calling gaming smartphones when they don't have physical controls. Don't forget to subscribe if you like the content. I really appreciate it. It means a lot to me. And other than that, take care, and I will see you next week for more Midweek Geek. But before that, this weekend for Geek Therapy Radio. I'm all over the place, baby. I'm done.